Tien is a straight up underrated character. Despite a promising boom at the beginning of Season 3 due to the limit break mechanic making him a borderline broken anchor character, Tien rarely sees use these days. And that's a damn shame, because besides boasting some of the highest damage supers in the game, making use of the MVC3 Doctor Doom butter gun, and having access to Chiaotzu in general, Tien is just a really cool character. There are a few players, however, who have been loyal to Tien Shinhan since launch, and among their ranks is the one and only Groovy Groove. Groove is a human character specialist in Dragon Ball FighterZ. He plays Krillin, Yamcha, and Tien, who all hold up to the competition much better in the game than they did in canon. His affinity for Tien in particular has led him to become an expert on the character, and today he's going to show us how to make the most of everyone's favorite three-eyed Z fighter. What's up, y'all? KRCPinto here. Today I'm chilling with Groovy Groove. He's a human character specialist, a master in the art of showing OP Saiyans what Earthlings can do. Groove, how you doing today, man?
I am good. How are you?
Doing great, dude. And today we'll be talking about everyone's three-eyed powerhouse, Mr. Tien Shinhan. So you've been playing this character since like day one, right?
Yes, literally.
Perfect, dude. I'm stoked to talk about it.
I distinctly remember I went to Walmart at 7 a.m., got the game, drove home. First thing I did, Tien.
Walmart at 7 a.m.?
Yeah.
Dude, so much respect. That's the way to do it. Alright, well, today we're going to be going through what makes Tien special, why you should be playing him in Season 3.5, and some cool tips and tricks. So, Groove, you ready to get into it, man?
Absolutely.
Alright, let's do it. So, the first one's low ball. Of Tien's moveset, what is your favorite move and why? It can be a special, a normal, a super, whatever you like best.
Alright, I'm actually going to be a little bit specific with this one. I'll give you one of each. So, my favorite normal, this thing right here, JM. Like, it's beautiful, it works exactly the way it's supposed to, unlike, Videl. And it's a fun time, you know? You get everything you need to off it.
It looks like it slims out his hurt box a lot, too. Does it compress?
I believe it does. I'm not 100% sure. One thing that's interesting, though, they buffed this button in the 3.5 patch. I think vertically it's larger, which is a really good thing, because one of Tien's main problems is his buttons really lack vertical reach. So this is kind of like a really simple basic thing, but he gets a second overhead, or he can just cancel into a low. Again, it's like a really simple thing that half the cast, probably 2/3, can do really easily, but it's just a nice little soft fix. Once this thing has come down on you, you kind of have to start paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
He actually gets 3 overheads there. It's good for cross-ups, it's good for the thing I was just talking about. It does well in the air-to-airs, also.
Yeah, it looks like he's not extending his hurt box too much, since it's just the leg out. That's probably good. Sweet,
and
dude.
Then, the other situation... Whoops. So, that's obviously good for, the soft knockdowns when people respect the Chiaotzu situation or try to jump out of it, and then... It's really good off of his Tri-Beam Super. Yeah, so off of his level 3, that's when the JM, I think, is at its most useful, because it's a hard knockdown. You just come down on them with it, and you could go high, you could go low, you could go high twice. I mean, there's a command grab. Like, Tien has options there.
Yeah,
But,
it seems like it puts you in a really good position, and like almost the distance you came down at, it's like the absolute perfect distance to just IAD and throw that out, and you're just gonna catch him with the boot, basically.
Anyway, so that's my favorite normal. My favorite special, like, look at that thing. I love it. It's awesome. Chiaotzu is one of my favorite characters, and I'm really glad they just shoved him into Tien's toolkit like this. Like, it's just nice to have the little buddy there. I mean, I'm sure everyone's seen it before. You get a knockdown, you back up a bit, you call this, and you're plus. That's not without its faults, though. Proper reflect will just kind of deal with that, but because these animations are so similar, and this has a lot less recovery, what you can do is just kind of like fake someone out, they reflect, and then you just hit them with this thing, and they die because it's Tien.
What do you do to deal with the that third use whiff? Do you just try to like get that out as like whenever you can to like reset it?
Good question. So that honestly depends on the situation. So Tien's an anchor. Let's I don't know if we've gone over that, but let's start with that. Tien is not a point character. He should not be up front unless circumstances have arisen. If for whatever reason you're in a situation where you have assists available, just call one to deal with it, and then you get Chiaotzu back.
Makes sense.
You kind of surrender your Oki, but I mean, if you want to keep using that thing, that's the best way to deal with it. Another thing you can do, which is, I don't recommend this just because it's risky and people are not patient enough to let you do this, but you could just like throw it out there and hope that they don't hit you in the meantime. Preferably as far away as possible, because if you're up close, they're going to press a button and that's going to hurt. So the final and rather tragic way to deal with this problem is, you guessed it.
Just pull them up.
It's not your problem anymore. Which I don't like doing that for a few reasons. Number one, I use Tien's B assist, so that's a huge no-no unless Tien's alone. He's on limit break, everyone else is dead. So like, unless that's a situation, that super is a huge no-no for me.
Right, because then your assist goes away once Chiaotzu blows himself up, correct?
Yep. I'd prefer not to do that if I still have like one or two freezes left, just because like, there goes his plus frames.
Right.
On Oki. And the third reason, which I do not recommend for any competitive players, is just because like, I can't do that to Chiaotzu. Like, it's a lore thing. I can't, like, the victory won't feel right if he died to get us there. I'm sorry.
Bringing sentimental feelings onto the battlefield. I respect it.
Yeah, anyway, this is my favorite move. Summarizing what we said before, like, it gives Tien his plus frames on his soft Oki. Just like as a Dragon Ball fan, I like it. Chiaotzu is one of my favorite characters. I guess that's really all there is to it, honestly.
So, you might have already answered this question, but what's your favorite assist of his and why? I know you run Chiaotzu. Is that your favorite assist?
Yes, by far. So, there are a few reasons for it, and a lot of people seem to hate it and like think it's bad, but definitely a good thing to talk about. Since Tien is an anchor, you're gonna see a lot of his assists if you're playing him. Before we actually get into this, Tien is not a C assist character. Don't go for it.
What is his C assist?
It's
Volleyball?
yeah, it's the volleyball slide and then the basic C assist hullabaloo.
Right.
So the problem with that is that like these are two really good assists. There's with a lot of combo potential. There is no reason whatsoever to just be using the C assist. I prefer Tien B definitely. As I mentioned before, like Chiaotzu's great. I love having him. And like that's 60 frames of hit stun, and I believe it's 40 of block stun, which, that's pretty good for lockdown. And it's not perfect because the tracking of the move is nerfed a bit on the assist compared to the actual move on point, which is a good thing because that would be bar none the best assist in the game. Like Bardock B who, like Roshi B would get blown out of the water. Like imagine this thing just tracked perfectly. That would be stupid. Like it has air tracking too, so like no, that would be horrible. But so I get why it doesn't track perfectly, but even then there are like neutral shenanigans with it that can be very powerful. There is some counterplay to it, but I mean, as long as you know that the other person is going to do said counterplay, you can try to work around that and just trick them in other ways. Basically, you just kind of stay grounded and reflect, and that will shut down the basic premise of this assist, but then you can start getting tricky with it. You could approach them and throw a button in, and then they're in block stun, or even just go for the ballsy Dragon Rush because of how slow it is. So yeah, there's that. The other thing about this that I really like is the way it can be used for soft Oki, or sliding knockdown. Soft knockdown is a different thing entirely. So like, what I do with Krillin is that I'll get my knockdown, I'll back up, call this thing, and then usually I'll AID jam in, but I mean this thing is really good when used for OP because a lot of tech options just aren't gonna handle this thing at all. So like, let's see, up tech. So like you up tech, you try to get out of it, that the JM caught it, but I mean like, I'll just try not doing anything to demonstrate how it works. So like, you're not really getting out of it by doing that. That doesn't help you.
Right.
And then when you combine it with whatever hitbox I'm throwing out, you're just in block stun, like it, or you got hit. It's like it's not something that's pleasant to deal with at all.
Does it fail like the normal move does?
It does not. You can press this thing all day; it'll keep going off. It doesn't matter.
Does it contribute to the failure count when Tien comes in?
No, it's not relevant at all. Let's try to demonstrate more. And then, like, they can't even try to 2H out of it just because I have enough time to be active before the anti-air properties kick in. If they happen to get hit by the assist, it's 60 frames of hit stun. It's, I mean, you're converting if you land a hit off of this, and if you don't, turn off counterattack. And then if you don't, it's plus 40, which is, especially with like air landing frames, a lot of weird stuff can happen that can just make you so unnecessarily plusier. One of my favorite things, naturally you can technically reflect that of anything, but if you try that here, that happens.
That was weird. Why does that happen?
It's because of how slow the assist is. Naturally, like, that's a specific option I'm choosing. It's just like no one's going to expect that. It's really gonna get in the other person's head, and it's definitely something you should try doing if you notice that the other person is gonna reflect their way out. And again, going back as I really got into this subject, it's decent for neutral shenanigans. You have to time it specifically because of how slow it is, but so it's kind of like Blue Cheetah's A assist in that regard. But I mean, you know, you get a lot of block stun, pretty good for lockdown. If like you accidentally convert a stray hit with it, which happens sometimes, the damage is bad, but it's 60 frames of hit stun, so you will get the conversion. It's really easy.
Right. I'd rather get a scaled combo than no combo.
Okay, the easy version. Let's just do the easy version. So, like, you know, you can, like, get a 5H into a beam, which is pretty cool. That's what I like about TNB. And then there's TNA, which it's Dodon Ray. It's technically a beam, so, like, you know, you'll get some nice stuff off in neutral. It's also good for some combo extensions. I did this a lot in Season 2. I would just snap in the other character, like so. Which, it's also something you could just do for free from the screen, which, you know, when Snap was a thing, that was a really nice utility.
It's a single hit, right?
Yeah, it's a single hit. There is one major downside, and that's kind of the reason I'm going to stick with TNB. You are plus 20 on that. This is plus 40. That's kind of a big difference right there.
Right.
And one of the problems that causes is like I got reflected.
Right.
I call TNB. It's a little bit weird at the time, but you're not getting reflected there.
Keeps it true.
Yeah. And so it's difficult to use this appropriately for lockdown because of that. Like, it's a nice assist, but there's just that thing. It's not good. I don't like that at all. It plagued me for 2 seasons.
So earlier you said that the Tien's definitely an anchor and you shouldn't play him point or mid. Do you want to touch on that real quick?
Yeah, well, just a disclaimer. You definitely can play Tien mid.
So what makes him... I mean, I know he's got like really high damage potential, keeping Chiaotzu alive until the end so you can maximize that. Level 3, it makes sense to put him on anchor. What makes him not as effective at point?
Good question. So there's 2 very specific reasons for that. So the reason Tien shouldn't really be a point character, he fights very well on his own. He's got a... I mean, it's 24 frames, you can react to it, but he does have a command grab, which is going to throw people off every now and then. He's got the famous low 2L. And it doesn't work on GT because it's GT, but he has a triple overhead. Like he's got this extra overhead. He's got the low, and he's also got the slide technically, which is another low. his frame data is really good. His mediums specifically are like, well, this thing is -7, but this one is -4. Like, his frame data is relatively similar to Bardock's, actually, to the point that he even has a I'm plus button, except you can't cancel into it, unfortunately, but that's beside the point. So, like, he has good frame data, he has extra lows and overheads, he's got a command grab, and he's got I'm plus on Oki. So, he's a good anchor. We'll come back to that in a minute. The point I'm making, though, is that because he's a nice, reliable anchor, you want to put him there just because there aren't that many anchors. So, it stands to reason that, like, say your team is, like, Tien, Cell, and Teen Gohan. Tien is absolutely the anchor out of that group.
Right.
If you're not putting him on anchor, you're doing yourself a disservice. There's no reason for him to be point over those two characters. And then the other reason Tien shouldn't be a point is that this is the Tien B&B. It's a Tien B&B. You get about a bar and a half. I didn't use that up. Training mode syndrome. Or if we go into the corner, more training mode syndrome. If we go into the corner, you somehow get less meter, by the way. But he's building a bar and change, and he does have a couple of really nice assist extensions, but he got a bar and change off of, like, you know, a corner optimal. Almost 2 bars. That's not good, because if we take a look at Krillin, he builds more meter on his mid-screen DND. So, like, Tien does not build meter, and your point character is supposed to be building meter, which is definitely the main reason that I look at him and say he's not a point. I mean, he would be better anchor regardless, but that is the reason he should not be in this role. He does not build meter well. There's really no way to fix that.
Right. What is something you do in neutral that you don't think other Tiens do enough, that you, like, wish they would do more?
That's a good question. I think, honestly, the main thing is just, like, just throwing out the ballsy Chiaotzu Freeze. Tien is inherently a very straightforward character. Like, he's got this slide that's pretty cool. This is a good button, and he's got the famous butter gun. And you can also just make that not fall, by the way. It'll stay in place if you do an extra input.
But yeah, he's very fundamentals based. Like, he's not trying to do some crazy, like, ridiculous gimmick like some other characters might.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's solid, and it hurts if you let him be more solid than you. That's the best way to summarize Tien. So, there's not much as far as, like, the extra, like, push you can give yourself. It's just, if you feel that the other person is going to respect you, you can throw this in, and it will throw them off a bit. They might just get confused and let you hit them, which it's a little bit tricky, but you should be able to confirm it, as long as you're ready. If they happen to block it, that is plus 31, so you can close the gap before they have an answer. This isn't a great thing. If the other person knows you're gonna try that, they can super dash, they can toss a beam, they can just make your day not fun if you're too obvious about this. It's just that, if the moment is right, you throw this in, and they'll just take a moment and go, what the hell just happened? And sometimes that's all you need.
So once they block and you can kind of get in and start your pressure, where do you go from there with Tien? Like we've already said, he's kind of straightforward and fundamental. What do you do to like keep the pressure going or mix them up when you need to? Like how do you make it work when you've got the advantage?
There are two sides to this. There's Tien with assist and Tien by himself. So the basic Tien block strings, it's about as simple as they come. It's light or 2L or a jump in or whatever. Light. There's actually a second hit to his second light. Just make a quick note of that.
Noted.
Yep. So it's light, medium. Throw a key blast in if you want into the H, and this is unsafe, so you end your turn with the slide. It's -5, it's the end of your turn, and it does not jail into vanish, so you can't really do that. It's just if you've committed to the 5H, that's really the only direction you have to go. Unless you want to do this and risk getting 2H. You can 100% 2H this. So, try that at your own risk, but if you're being safe and reliable and basic, you 5H and end your turn with the slide, or you can go for the key blast. It's just that your only other option at that point is the slide. And some people might just instinctively key blast before the 5H. So once you've committed that far, you have to slide or key blast. And then from key blast, either slide or really just try to back away, because the other person's probably pressing a button at that point. So where Tien succeeds with his solo pressure is his frame data. The only things that are obstinately negative are his H's. Well, everything's technically negative, but the only
like
things that
unsafe negative.
Right. The only things that are safe are his H's, and just by the tip of his hat, the 2M is -7. That can get punished, but you can cancel it into other normal, so it's not a huge deal. But, you go for a 2L, you pause, 5LL, pause, 5M, that's -4, you can... You have options to stagger and continue pressure. And he does have a pretty nice 5L, so what you can do is 4L, 5L, Dragon Rush, which is something that'll throw people off, since you expect after. You would just expect after after one 5L that the tick throw would come, and then there's the second one. So where Tien just really succeeds is with his frame data and ability to stagger or keep the pressure going. It's just that this has its limits, of course, and eventually the other person's getting out. So to mitigate that issue, we've got the command grab. It's not something you can just depend on like you would with Broly. It's something that'll work once in a while, kind of like that, like throwing out Chiaotzu out here.
Like, you gotta pick your moment.
Right, exactly. Tien is not a grappler, he just has a grab. One good thing is that he can Tiger Knee into the chop, which I'm like 2 for 4 right now. So you could pressure someone and then just unexpectedly go for that, which is going to catch a lot of people. And it's very good if you happen to be sparking, because then it's just instant. You know, like it's a fast overhead. If I was canceling it better, it would say the startup was, you know, in the teens, which is not something that's easy to react to.
Right. That's kind of the threshold for this game too, isn't it? I think 17 frame is like where you want your command grabs to be. So putting an overhead around that range, even lower, is really, really solid.
And then, you know, again, like you have to be sparking to like cancel into it, but if you get it right,
there you go. 13. Jeez, that's fast.
It's like that's completely unreactable if you get it perfectly right. But if you're not sparking, it's a bit of a chore, but it's still pretty fast. That's 18 right there. 17.
So basically, the gist I'm getting is that you're getting a strong pressure built around good frame data that allows you to create safe strings, and then kind of at the end you have the option to special cancel into an overhead, a low, or a grab, so you kind of get like an uneven three-way mix towards the end of your strings if you want it.
Yeah, exactly. Or you can even just like commit to that earlier if you want to. Like after the 5L, you go up here or down here, or just command grab. Yeah, that's a good way to summarize the situation. So he can use this nice, competent frame data to just keep you on your toes, and he has exactly enough gimmicks that if the other person is going to be patient and not let you frame trap into a medium starter, he has the right amount of gimmicks that the more patient person will just get caught off guard by something every now and then.
We touched on this earlier, but how's Tien's Oki? What's his go-to setup? You talked about JM a lot. Is that like the primary move? Is there anything else he can set up?
Yes, Tien has a few options. So off his level 3, you are in the perfect position to get an AID JM, and you just saw I messed that up. It's there, trust me. There it is. Sorry. Took a couple tries, but you can get a triple overhead, actually. Once you do get there with the JM, you can opt for a low instead, and you'll notice that actually comboed. So if they do happen to get hit by the JM and you go for the second layer, then you're already set. You don't lose the combo because you tried to go for the second layer.
Right.
So I mean, that's a pretty basic thing to get off the level 3. You can empty jump if you want to. The critical thing with Tien, which is coming up here also, you just want to think with your fundamentals, like the empty jump being a high-low off JM, or empty jump Dragon Rush off of it.
So that is your go-to Oki, though, is that IAD JM. It sets you up for success. It gives you options like double and triple overhead, or you can come in with a low afterwards, and kind of has like a built-in mix-up to it.
Yeah, and I mean, what a lot of people would think of is like you go for the JH and the unexpected chop afterwards, because 9 times out of 10, the JH means there's no other overhead coming in. but then the chop happens. That's something that a lot of people would think of, and the reason that using JM specifically is better is because you can follow up with JL for the meterless confirm into an actual combo, and then you dump the meter. So, like, for that reason specifically, it's better to try the JM.
Makes sense.
And there is actually one more specific thing you can do, because naturally, like, visually, like, they're jumping, your default position is stand block. Like, this is the default position off that level 3. In general, the default position is crouch block, but just, like, because the big setup is this thing, like, your first instinct is you're high blocking off of it, right?
Right.
So, one thing that works so much more than it should, the YOLO slide. It's a low, it really just throws off people who are like, okay, he's coming for the jump in, I'm gonna try to react once he gets here. Like,
And it has a great name.
Yep. Like, the slide just comes for you, and it's not the most reliable thing, but it will catch people off guard once you've convinced them that this is your mix. Which, I mean, you know, obviously, like, again, you look at that like 3 or 4 times, you think, okay, he's going for it again, and then just, there it is, the low.
Makes sense. It fits with everything else
Yeah.
you've said so far, like, you know, use the Chiaotzu at the right moment, mix up with the command grab at the right moment. Same deal.
Yeah, like, there's a time and a place to do everything that makes Tien Tien. I think that's the best way to summarize the idea behind all that.
I like that.
And again, this thing is -5, so like, if you don't hit, like, that's kind of it, unless you're sparking and you can empty vanish. But yeah, so like, for
It's
that
also
reason,
-5 so you can block.
yeah, it is safe, don't get me wrong. So like, that's just the thing. Like, you're committing to this. Well, you're committing to your turn ending.
Let's say you do what you're supposed to do. You go for a slide. It's -5. Now you got to block. And now you're at the mercy of someone else's pressure. Does Tien have good options to deal with pressure? Does he have any defensive tools that people should know about, like a good mash button, any sort of special move to get him out of a sticky situation? What can he do?
Yeah, that's a good question. The simple answer is no, and we should probably stick to that. Next question.
That's a pretty common answer, actually. A lot of people come up with, like, you know...
There are a couple of things, actually. I just wanted to be funny.
Well, let's lean into the no a little bit and go through, like, a system mechanic perspective. So maybe he doesn't have something that can just, like, you know, he doesn't have a DP, obviously. He can't just, like, say no to being put into a bad position. But, like, does he have a great, like, follow-up to a successful reflect or something along those lines that he can use well?
Well, that would basically be the slide, actually. Yeah, okay. So basically, it depends on the situation, honestly. Because, I mean, if we look at this recording, we can't really get there in time to punish. But, I mean, should the other person happen to keep pressing buttons, you can either go for a slide or a 5H. Yeah, no, the long and the short is that there are situations when Tien can strictly punish, and situations where he can't. There is one thing I do want to particularly make note of, is this thing right here is 236M. I actually got into a bit of Twitter drama because of this thing specifically. So this thing, it's technically an armored move. I say technically because the armor is terrible, which I'll get into that in a second. It's so bad that I legitimately went like a year and a half without ever trying to press this outside of combos. Or like in a block string. Just like, there was never a point where I was like gonna try to like catch someone with the armor on this.
Right.
It's bad. It doesn't work. The problem with using this thing as a reversal, like you could see he's in the startup sometimes because it's not frame 1, it's frame 4. So you can't just like poke your way out of offense that's like a tiny bit off. You're getting hit by a medium starter for trying that. So it's frame 4, it's not an actual reversal. And if we look at the frame data, it's -5. Yes, it's a safe on block reversal. The problem is counterplay. So it's not frame 1, so you might just get beat out for trying to use it. He's still set to guard all. He ate a medium punish for that.
Yeah, that's not ideal.
Yeah. Like, if you get baited the same way as a DP, you're toast, because you whiffed. You whiffed a special. That means that there's no banishing.
Right.
There's no raw super, so you can't DHC out, and you can't even spark your way out. You are eating the guaranteed medium punish. That, like, there is no avoiding that. That is true. You are getting punished if the person knows the counterplay, which is just AID back. And then the other significant thing is that, as you saw right there, there's a hole in the armor. There's a gap between armor and button, or hitbox. So
the armor is on like the wind up where he puts his fist down like he's gonna volleyball, and then once he does the slide, he's not got it anymore. Right,
and the problem is the hitbox isn't instantaneous from that point. So you will someone will accidentally beat you out of this. So it's not frame 1, so you can't really get yourself out of these situations with it. It's quite possibly the most unsafe reversal in the game, with counterplay on the opponent's side. Like, look at, like, this is what happens because you tried to use that.
Right.
And then even if it works, there's a hole in the armor, so the other person can just accidentally beat you out of it. Like, sometimes you'll, like, yes, that's not gonna happen every, like, you can see that's not the case every time, but it's often enough that you should not be using it as a reversal. And it's not instantaneous enough to be a reversal. And if it's baited, you eat a medium starter. It's just bad. It has armor, but it is not a reversal.
Okay. Alright, Groove. So, let's say someone came to you and they're like, Groove, I'm on the fence about playing Tien. I think he's kind of cool, but I'm not sure if I want to pick him up. What are you saying to push them over the edge? What is the sell for this character? Why should someone start playing Tien today?
Honestly, I mean, Tien is a solid character. I think that's the best way to summarize it. he's just a little bit spicier than Super Saiyan Goku. I mean, he does everything about as well as a fine character should, and he plays meter dump really well. That's really all there is to it. I would say that if you're gonna walk up and say, you know what, I could take Sonic Fox, like, if you have that kind of confidence that you're a solid player that your solid play is going to help you out, then yeah, sure. But if you're like, I would much rather try to, like, slowly my way past a top player, then I would not say pick Tien. I don't like the term honest, but he is pretty honest. He checks you with a couple of gimmicks every now and then, but he otherwise just plays the game well.
Yeah, I think my takeaway from our talk is definitely if you're looking for a reliable anchor, if you want to play a fundamentals-based game or at least have one character on your team that plays that way, or if you're a big fan of the scene where he absolutely wastes second form Cell for like 7 minutes straight and you want to reenact that in a match, that's the move.
Yep. Because, I mean... Oh, I forgot he was set to guard. My bad. But, I mean, like... look at this, though. Like, you don't want to do this to another player just because. I mean, I would just, like, say on the final note, Tien is a very good anchor. If you need a solid anchor to round out your team, you should pick him. And, I mean, he succeeds by the player being solid. He succeeds where you succeed, and he fails where you fail.
All right, dude. Well, good talk today. I'll let you go, but thanks for coming by the show. Anything you want to plug here? Do you want to throw in your Twitch link? You want to talk about YouTube videos? What do you got? Where can people find you?
Well, actually, really quick before we head out, we're giving the people a quick and very basic TOD.
Yeah, we gotta close with the TOD. Let's do it.
Yeah, I just want to add a little bit of pepper to this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I got really thrown off by Limit Break and the extra meter it gives.
There it is. That's the second form Cell.
10K.
Is a perfect 10K?
Yeah, look at that.
Wow, that's sick. All right, dude. Well, thanks for stopping by today, and we'll catch you soon.
Yeah, all right. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm here. I'm alive. We're having fun with it.
Beautiful,
I'll
dude.
see everyone later.